everybody, and welcome to another very exciting and a very special GIC TV presentation here today on the Global Illumination Council. My name is Bernard Alvarez. I am the founder and the empowerment director for the GIC, as well as a number of other organizations that I'm involved in. However, this weekend is the fourth anniversary of the Global Illumination Council. And we want to thank you for joining us today for this special Sunday broadcast live here on the GIC.org. Today, joining me in just a moment, we have Judy Carroll, who has been kind enough to wake up a little bit early in Australia, and she's joining us live from Brisbane, Australia. Excuse me. Let me tell you a little bit about Judy. Judy has had contact with non-earthly beings that she knows as Greys or Zetas. In her early teens, she started to have conscious encounters and began to recognize a connection with the visitors. With almost 60 years of full-on conscious contact with the Zeta Greys behind her, Judy is trying to explain and attempting to explain through her writing and through her interviews like this one here today, the real facts behind who and what the Greys are, why they are here, and why a controller group here on Earth is doing everything in its power to disrupt their work. If you are like me, I've heard very, I don't want to say crazy, bad word, very opposite stories, some good, some bad. Some people think that the Greys are a hybrid race created by the Illuminati. Some people believe that they are here to help humanity, and some people believe that they are a slave race created by another extraterrestrial race. So, to put all of that aside and to hear, hopefully, we're going to get some of the truth here today with someone who has contact with them. So, without further ado, let me go ahead and bring Judy Carroll into the conversation here. Good morning in Australia, Judy. How are you today?
I'm very well, Bernard. Thank you. How are you over there?
Just wonderful. It's a lovely day here. I'm in Virginia, and it's a Sunday. For you, it's Monday morning already.
Yes,
So
it
it's
is.
still
It's six
Sunday.
o'clock in the morning here.
Yes. So we're still enjoying our Sunday afternoon. Anyway, I want to thank you so much for joining us today on such a special day at that, and to take the time to get up and speak to us this morning. So thank you for being here, Judy.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Bernard. I'm happy to be here.
Anyway, Judy, you are the author of The Zeta Message and, I'm sorry, what was the name of the second book?
Yes, human by day, Zeta by night.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you say that you've been in contact with the Greys since your childhood. Can you tell us a little bit about how it started? Maybe give us a little background on how your connection with them started.
Yes, Bernard. Well, my first childhood experience was actually being taken up our street by a tall, thin lady. And the screen image that was placed into my mind was that we were boarding a train. Many, many years later, down the track, when I started to get better understanding on this, I came to realise that I was taken onto a disc. These screen images are often used by the Zetas to just maybe lessen the trauma a little bit for people during contact experiences, particularly for children whose reality, of course, wouldn't encompass ET existence, certainly not back in those days. I was
Right.
actually born in 1952, so there was no such thing even spoken about over here in Australia back then. I had no understanding of it at all, probably until I was well into my early 20s, late teens, early 20s. I started to get a little bit more of a handle on it. I did have a lot of fear as a child because obviously I was being taken on a fairly regular basis. I always had a fear that someone was going to come into the house and take me. Of course, I had no physical evidence of this, but it was always a fear in the back of my mind. I had a paralysis experience when I was about 15 years old, that someone again was coming in. I actually saw the doorknob in my room turning. And then I think I had missing time, woke up the next morning with vague memories of being taken. So my main experience actually happened when I was about 30 years old. We were living on an acreage property at the time, and I started feeling a little bit off colour during the afternoon. It was in the middle of the afternoon, about 2 o'clock, and decided to go upstairs and lie down for a rest in one of the back bedrooms where I could be in private because my husband's family were over on this particular day. Anyway, I lay down, and the next moment I was placed into the paralysis state again, which I know a lot of experiencers are familiar with. I also had a loud roaring, buzzing sound in my head. And the next moment I became aware of two of the Zetas standing beside the bed. They were
Wow.
absolutely full third dimensional reality, blocking out light coming in the window of the bedroom. And immediately I saw them. My fear stopped, and it was as if I recognised them as family. And it was like the whole thing at that point in time came together. Ah, yes, now I know what's been going on. That's who you are. I'm
Oh.
fine with it. So it was a very interesting experience. Um, During that meeting, I was given quite a long talk. A lot of requests were made of me, and a lot of, how can I say, they made suggestions to help me with my life, told me sort of where things would be going. I was told that we'd be moving back into the city, that I'd had enough time to rest out in the country with my time to get back to work. That was the word that they used. It's time for you to get back to work, time for you to wake up. Um, and I was told that I needed to learn Tai Chi, I needed to learn meditation, and I needed to get into more spiritual practices. Up until then, I'd actually been raised Catholic, educated in a convent, very physical oriented person. I was actually a flamenco dancer by profession.
Oh,
I,
wonderful.
yes, my great grandmother was a dancer. My family
Lovely.
background, part of my family background is Spanish Gypsy. And I've since come to understand that the Zetas link into tribal backgrounds. I
Yeah.
know that there's a lot of understanding with the Native American people of Star Nation. So it seems to be a bit of a Zeta thing. And I understand now why, because their cultural structure is rather similar. So anyway, they wanted me to meditate, and of course, having been a dancer and very physically oriented, not into any of this stuff at all, they realised that I would have problems with it, and this is why they suggested Tai Chi, which back then I hardly even knew what it was. Anyway, over the next 3 years, circumstances changed dramatically. Both for my husband and myself, we both decided to move back into town. Actually, it was my husband's decision. Let's move back into town because his mum had recently been widowed and she was going to come and stay with us. Up until then, we wouldn't have moved him off the acreage. He loved living on acreage, but this
Oh,
changed the
yeah.
whole situation. So we moved back to town, and within a week of being in town in our new home, I found an advertisement for Tai Chi in a shop down the local shopping centre, rang up, booked into the class, and the whole thing just proceeded exactly the way the Zetas had told me. Same thing with meditation. People moved in next door who had come up from down south. They were a Tasmanian couple, and she'd been meditating for 10 years, and her teacher was also, or had also moved up here and was just starting a class, and I was invited to join, which was quite actually unusual because it was a closed meditation group, which meant it'd be pretty profound teaching we'd be experiencing. And I actually sat in that group for 8 years,
Mm.
learned to do channeling, learned to do automatic writing, which then led me on to writing books. So it all just sort of took off exactly the way the Zetas had told me. They told me I'd be teaching these things, which I am. So that's
Mm.
basically my story.
It's a lovely story, and I can't help but feel a lot of parallels within my life and in the life of others that are, I guess, doing the work of helping to aid humanity in this awakening process. And I thank you for that, absolutely, so much. Judy, with we've only got like 50 minutes, and I probably could ask you questions for 4 hours. So let me ask you a little bit about what did you mean that the Greys are here to help people, but others are trying to disrupt their work.
Yes, well, as many people understand, planet Earth is in the process of stepping up from fourth world consciousness to fifth world consciousness. Many tribal people speak about this. I know it's in the Hopi tradition and in the Mayan tradition. Many people understand about this, and the 21st of December this year, etc.
Yes.
So what's actually happening, because we're part of our planet, okay, human race is intrinsically part of Mother Earth. So if the planet steps up to a high vibrational frequency, if humans want to stay with the planet, of course, they need to step up as well. So it's like humanity is meant to evolve along with the planet. Now, in the universe, the Zetas are, how can I say, they're scientists, but science in those higher frequencies is also linked in with spirituality. It's not, like down here, science and religion are two different things.
Yeah.
Up in those higher dimensional frequencies, science and, well, from want of a better word, religion, but spirituality is a better term, are linked hand in hand. So as sort of the scientists of the universe, it's the Zeta's job to go in when a race like ours is ready to step up to the next evolutionary level. It's their job to come in and assist with this process. And it's basically a consciousness expansion process. So that's why they're here at this time. But at the same time, there's a group down here, I refer to them as the controllers in my book, who don't want this to happen. They want humans to stay down here disempowered, virtually under their thumb. And this is why they're spreading a huge amount of disinformation against the Zetas to stop people wanting to link into them. So it's like they're using fear as a weapon.
Oh, absolutely, and we see that almost everywhere in the media and on the internet and TV. And just the way the paradigm is set up in general it seems to be suppressing our ability to expand our consciousness. Now, when you're referring to the controllers, are you referring to an alien race? Maybe, in other words, actually, let me take that back. Is there a hybrid race of greys?
Yes, but not down here. It's very complex to try to explain. The Zetas actually have many different groups within their culture, and yes, there is one hybrid group, but they're not down here so much. I mean, there are some living down here, but I think it's a different group that we're talking about here to do with the controllers, who are creating their own hybrids. The Men in Black, for example, are an example of the ones that have been created down here. So there is a whole program going on down here as well.
Now, is there any connection to the Zetas that you are in contact with, and let's say, for example, the Roswell incident, or any of the extraterrestrials that might be working with our government?
Yes, there is a connection. Yes, I don't want to go into details on this,
Okay.
but yes, there is.
Okay. Very good. Very good. I've been very looking forward to hearing if there was some type of a connection there. Now, we hear so much about different alien species, the Zetas, the Pleiadians, the Syrians. We talk about the Ascended Masters and all of that. And I think this is a very important topic, which I'm actually getting into a little early, but I'm hoping that we can really expand on this a little bit. There are so many channelers, perhaps, people that are having their own experiences that are telling people. A great example was during the Olympics. There was a huge thing over the internet and in the UFO culture as far as the ships coming and landing in the Olympic Stadium, and this was going to be the beginning of a new day, and they were going to make peace with they were going to put an ultimatum with the leaders of the world and whatnot. Can you kind of maybe share what's your observations as far as these kind of messages is concerned? Are they real? Are they fake? Is this disinformation, or is it some type of malevolent extraterrestrial species that is sending this information?
Okay, this is fairly complex to answer. Yes, I have actually had a lot of information on this come through. Um, the majority of it is disinformation coming from down here. is really important for people to understand is that one of the more negative races, could call them extraterrestrial, but they've actually been here for a long time, are the tall blonde ones. Now, I know there's some crossover here because the Palladian people look like that, they're fine, but there is a group down here. The Zetas actually refer to them as the blondes. They were the ones behind the Nazi regime.
Yes.
Now, they're posing, they will often pose as, Archangel Michael or Palladian or whatever. They're shapeshifters and they'll pose as a highly evolved being. And it's very, very hard for a person when they're channeling. It's sometimes hard to link into whether the energies are good or bad. You've got to really be trained to be able to do this. And so what they're doing, they're linking into psychics who are sort of are allowing themselves to be open to channel teachings. This is actually why I prefer to do it by writing. I don't like channeling very much because I just don't feel the filters are there as strongly as when you're writing.
Right.
Now, what they do, they'll come in and they'll claim to be like, Archangel Michael or something. And they'll give a message like this message that was put out at that time. And so people get all excited, they get their hopes up, oh, wonderful, the ETs are coming here, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And then, of course, nothing happens. Yeah. So everyone's mood just drops away with, oh, yeah, I knew it was all a load of rubbish. And it sort of lowers people's vibrations again, brings in disappointment, brings in frustration, brings in fear, which is exactly what the negative group down here want to do. Another thing that the Zetas have spoken of quite at length is that all these predictions of gloom and doom that are put out, again, they won't give predictions for the future because we create our own reality on a day-to-day basis. And so therefore, a prediction that's put out, if people link into it, and I'm really talking about these negative gloom and doom predictions that have been put out over the last 20 years. If people really link into these very strongly and put their thoughts and mind into it, oh, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, they will bring them about. So what these ones are doing, they're sort of trying to create through these hints that this is going to happen, that's going to happen, they're trying to create a negative scenario on planet Earth. So it's really important for people to understand this and realise, look, no, it's just fear-mongering. I'm not buying into that. I am creating a beautiful, positive future for myself and for my planet.
Absolutely, and I feel that that's one of the things that whether people are involved in the UFO community or whatnot, or in contact with extraterrestrials, that we have to really realize that we are creating our own reality by our thoughts, by our energy, and by what we put our attention to. And just like you said, many are just swallowing this pill without even using any type of discernment, and that's very it's what they want, or at least the negative entities, like you said, that's what they want.
Look, exactly. They work through so many avenues down here to spread fear, to spread disempowerment. The message the Zetas are trying to get across is, look, humans, you've got God within, you're empowered beings, you can create a beautiful future for yourselves. If you link into love, stop linking into the fear. That's really the main message that they're trying to get across.
Isn't that wonderful? And I can relate to that. I can actually relate to that with the contacts that I've had as well, and the people that I've been lucky enough to surround myself with. The common message is personal empowerment. The common message is align yourself with the love vibration, raise your vibration, not succumb to the fear, and to move through the fear. And I find that the tools that you are offered, like Tai Chi and meditation, are the tools that can help us with that. Actually, let me ask you a question about the Zetas. Have they explained to you maybe where they come from?
Have they? Sorry, I just missed that, Bernard.
Have the Zetas ever told you where they're coming from? What dimension, what planet, what constellation, etc.?
Oh, yes. Well, the majority of them are in the Zeta Reticuli system, but at the same time, an important thing to understand about the Zetas is they are further along the evolutionary line than we are here. They've been around for millions and millions of years. I mean, they were an advanced race when planet Earth was only just starting to be
Right.
inhabited. So they have access to many more dimensional frequencies than we do. In a moment, I'll just explain a teaching that they actually gave me on this. But yes, so even though the majority of them live in, like in the planet of the Zeta system, and there are many, many planets there. It's not just one or two or three planets. There's about 30 planets in the system. But they're sort of a higher frequency. So they can operate on many more dimensions than we can down here. And they understand the aspect of spirituality far more. They understand much more clearly that they're just like they're a soul inhabiting what they call a container, which is the body.
Yeah.
Whereas down here, we're just focused entirely on our third dimensional body. And we don't understand that we're not our body. We're much higher consciousness than that. And they can come and go from the body easily, particularly the higher level ones. They're over several levels in their culture, several. What I better do, I think I better explain this human ladder. Give me a teaching, because I'm coming out with these things and trying to back up what I'm explaining.
Please,
Back
please.
in 2001, one of our Zeta teachers gave us a message about what they refer to as the human ladder. Now, this human ladder is actually a path or a cycle through the universe that all human-type species follow, and it's a path of evolution. And he spoke of 10, what he referred to as galactic levels, but they're not galaxies. They're actually levels of conscious awareness, ascending levels of conscious awareness. And planet Earth's on level 1, and he said there's about 1,000 different life forms on level 1. And moving from 4th to 5th world consciousness, our planet is actually stepping up to level 2. Now, on level 1, we are able to access about 10% of our potential conscious awareness. The rest of our consciousness is sort of buried in subconscious and superconscious, but we're able to access about 10% of it on a conscious level, and this links into about 10% of our DNA that's active. Now, the process of human evolution opens up wider and wider and more expansive levels of consciousness. So, for example, when we move up to level 2, we'll be able to access 20% of our potential conscious awareness, 20% of our DNA will be active. Now, the Zetas are on about levels 5 to level 8.
Wow.
So they've got far more expansive conscious awareness than we have. But that's sort of where we're all heading as humans. That's what human evolution is about. It's not a physical thing, it's a mind thing.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad that you clarified that, because I feel that a lot of people don't understand the fact that evolution is not necessarily about growing another finger, or or being able to walk upright or whatnot. That it really is about our consciousness, and it really is about our ability to have that awareness and that clarity. That for me, I feel that eventually it's to really understand that we are one consciousness, but we have a singular perception. And I
Absolutely.
can't help but wonder, is that something that they say to you, that we're one, we are one, we just happen to see things differently.
Oh, look, exactly. The Zetas, they speak about this so much. There's one sort of, what people refer to down here as God. In the higher levels, they don't use that term. They use the term oneness or source. And it's exactly the same energy of oneness, the source energy, God energy, to put it into human terms, that flows through every living being in the universe. So the Zetas on that level are no different to what we are. As all of the ET species are, we all have that same God consciousness flowing through us. We might have a different container, but that's only the outer thing. It's the consciousness is the key to it. And yeah, sure, evolution in the animal kingdom and the mineral kingdom and that, yes, that's more physical. But once we get to the human kingdom, it becomes a mind process.
Absolutely, thank you for that. I kind of have a personal question to ask, and I'm wondering, maybe you could answer this for me. You brought up at the beginning a little bit about time. I don't know if you said time slip or something, where time had stopped for you. I remember myself being in contact with beings as a child, and I've never really explored it. But however, there was a moment where I'm watching television, and I guess it was a family member was walking through the hallway, and then all of a sudden, it was as if 5 seconds had gone reverse. And it was the same moment, the same program, and the same family member walking out of the hall, but 5 seconds earlier. Is that something that is common in being, for lack of a better term, being taken away or whatnot?
Yes, it is, Bernard. Very, very common. It's referred to as missing time, and it can be in our time. It may only be a matter of seconds or minutes, but more. You may have been taken up onto a disc, and quite a lot of time could have been passed. Because what people need to understand is that time doesn't go beyond planet Earth third dimension. It's very much something that governs our life down here, but the Zetas work independently of it. So once you're moved out of the third dimensional reality, which is what happens during a contact experience when you're perhaps taken up onto the disc, time really ceases to exist. And so therefore, time, you have like pockets of missing time down here.
Right, right. Or a
It's like you
reverse time.
step. Yeah, exactly. Just about. Yeah, well, you possibly can too. That's right. Because I mean, really, in the greater reality, there is no past, there is no future. It's like a continual now. A very good comparison was given to me many, many years ago by my Zeta teacher. He was saying, when you're on planet Earth, it's like you're on a river in a little boat. Whereas from the Zeta perspective, it's like they're up above in a plane or a helicopter. And so when you're down on the river in the little boat, you can only see as far as the next bend, whereas they can look down and see the whole panorama of the river and countryside laid out below them. And I've often used that as an example of how to explain how time is in a different up there to down here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now you mentioned a disc. Have you seen their ships? Are there ships, or are they just going through portals transdimensionally? We have many people that say actually a good motto that I've heard, and I don't know if it's true, and maybe you can clarify, is that if you see nuts and bolts, that's not a real ET. So, are there
Yeah,
ships?
yes, there are ships, but on a higher dimensional frequency. So yes, um, they can come through to physical reality. Like for example, I mean the Roswell incident, that was a nuts and bolts ship. There was
Yeah.
material collected. That was a very real incident. But there are ships from down here as well. So it's important for people to understand if they see one, it's not necessarily an ET one. Um,
Yeah.
you can generally tune in and just sort of see how you feel about it. If you feel okay, it's generally from up there. But the ones down here you don't feel so good with.
Absolutely. And thank you. That's a very good clarification. Another question that I have that's come to mind is that we have some people in the UFO community who believe that all ETs are bad. We have some people in the UFO community that think they're all good.
Mm.
And then there are people like myself that say to do what you say and to really just put your heart into it and feel what you're feeling. And if it feels right, it's right. If it's not, it's not. But
Oh, look, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. You've got to understand that you've got two choices here. And this is what human evolution's all about: the choice between love and fear. So, whenever a message or anything comes through, if you detect any sort of fear, and what people need to understand is that fear always isn't always expressed as such. It can be expressed through things like ego. It can be expressed through things like judgment, religious intolerance, racial intolerance, and that extends to other planets. All their ETs, they look different, so therefore they've got to be bad. That's just pure racism. Love is the opposite. It's all encompassing. It's non-divisive. It's bringing everyone together in oneness. So people have to choose between love and fear. And again, when these messages come through, are they coming from a stance of love and inclusiveness, or are they coming from a stance of fear and ego? It's important for people to really tune into that.
absolutely, thank you. And Judy, when you have contact with them, actually, let me just ask you. Presently, are when they have contact with you, the Zetas, are they coming to you physically or visually, or is it through channeling, or a little bit of both?
No, it's generally I'm placed in an altered state.
Hmm.
So I can, yes, I can. When I'm in that altered state, I can see them because then I'm vibrating on the same frequency as they are. That happens sometimes, not terribly often. It's happened a few times. What they generally do is they'll drop like images into my mind. So, for example, if I want to find out something, I just put myself into a quiet state. I'm a Reiki teacher, so I practice Reiki myself just about on a daily basis.
Wonderful.
They absolutely love Reiki because it's a very high frequency energy of love. So this draws them in. So if I want to contact them, I will put myself into a Reiki state where I know I'm completely protected, and that we can sort of communicate at that point. Sometimes they'll get me to write something down. They've sent through many messages in writing. So yeah, I sort of do it on different levels, depending on the circumstances.
Oh, I love that, and I thank you for the validation because when I do my contact work, I also prepare like I'm about to do a Reiki treatment, and I let the energy move through me, and then all of a sudden, that's when I start getting my messages. So, for
Yeah.
everybody listening, Reiki is a wonderful tool, and I know many of us watching. I see you on the chat are involved in Reiki as well. So that's definitely something that could be a very empowering tool, especially if you are interested in being able to contact extraterrestrials. And somebody had said once, and actually we hear it all the time, is that if you do want contact, you just need to ask. What would be your message to the public if they wanted to have some type of experience with ETs, whether they be the Zetas or preferably benevolent beings from outer space?
Yes, well, that's the whole thing. I get a lot of people asking me this too. And in fact, some people email and say, "Oh, could you organise?" I mean, it's not up to me. It's whether we have contact or not is a very personal deal that's made between ourselves and whoever the ET group is. Like everyone down here has ET genetics. There's no such thing as pure Earth human. We all have ET genetics. That's what part of our evolution. So most people down here, or all people down here, would have a link with one of the ET groups, not necessarily the Zetas. There's many different ones. So if you want to establish contact, it's like a pre-life arrangement that's been made, a between-life arrangement. You feel you're ready to step up to the next level, and so you arrange with your particular group beforehand that you will have contact experiences. Now, many more people are actually having contact than they're consciously aware of. We're not always consciously aware that we're being taken. So generally, when people express that, oh, I'd like to have a contact experience, it generally means they are anyway. Now, the trick of it is to do some sort of spiritual practice to raise your vibrational frequency so you can meet them halfway. That's the whole key to it. You need to do some sort of spiritual practice. It's also a protective way of doing it too, so that you do link with a good group and not a negative group.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to ask you if you could expand on that a little bit because we both we're talking about whether we're channeling good or bad, and sometimes people, let's say, I don't know, someone who might be very excited about the whole experience might open themselves up to something that might not be very helpful. Is there any tips or anything that you could offer for someone, let's say, new to the spiritual process of connecting with transdimensional entities or extraterrestrials?
Yeah, well, it is important to keep your vibrational frequency up. Like when I was training in the meditation group, I had a wonderful teacher. We're still in contact with each other. I speak about her in the Zeta message in this group I took part in for 8 years. Very strict teacher. We weren't allowed to miss a meditation. Every week we had to be there. So, it's no good if you join a meditation group, coming and going, I can't make it this week, I've got to go out to dinner or something. We looked upon our meeting night as sacred. Nothing would ever come in the way of
Oh
it.
yeah.
So you've got to dedicate yourself. Now, this is something that many people down here have trouble with, is the discipline behind spiritual practice. They're very undisciplined. It's no use meditating without discipline because you can open yourself up to lower astral interference. And this is a lot of this sort of thing is actually happening. So you've got to have discipline in your practice. That's the best advice I can give to people.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I think that's really something that I like to share also with people is that we have to take that opportunity to dedicate a special time for us to have quiet time, even if it's just to recharge our batteries, but even better if it's to raise your vibration and help you, clear your mind and make yourself available to subtle energies that you may not be in contact with on a regular basis. Tell us a little bit. We haven't had a chance to talk about your co-author. Can you tell us a little bit about her?
Oh yes, Helene.
Helene,
Helene
yes.
and I, yes, Helen K. We've known each other over a number of past lives. We have a very, very close connection. It's a very interesting story actually, Bernard, because this is an example of Reiki drawing in the contact experience. Helene and her family lived quite a distance from me, and they had not been into any of this at all. They weren't into new age things. They actually were running a family business. They used to made camper vans, and they had two young children, son Ben, who was about 7 at the time when I met them, and their daughter Kira, who was about 12. And they learned Reiki, Helene, the mother, learned Reiki for the specific reason that her two children were suffering from asthma.
Mm.
And she happened to learn from the same teacher that I learned Reiki from, but we didn't know each other. Anyway, back in 2000, in 2000, she had gone to level 2 in Reiki, and it was being so successful. The family were loving it so much they wanted to learn themselves, her husband and the two children. So the teacher went to their home and attuned them to level 1. And within a week of the husband and children being attuned to level 1, they started having activity in their home that they had no idea what it was. The children were seeing black-clad beings standing in the corner of their room. They were
Oh
seeing
my.
lights flashing through their skylight. A sort of spirit dog appeared in their house. They had their own dog. They had a Labrador, but it was locked out, and this other dog materialised in the house, went through to the son's room and disappeared. So all sorts of things started happening. And naturally, they were absolutely terrified. They had no idea what was going on. So they contacted their Reiki teacher, and he offered to go into the house to do a house cleansing. Now, he and I were working together in a business partnership back then, both involved in Reiki, and we often used to do house cleansing using Reiki. Reiki is wonderful for clearing negative energies out of houses or wherever, because there's specific symbols that we use in Reiki for protection and clearing, and it helps trap spirits, for want of a better word, to move on. So we have had a lot of success in this. So our teacher went down to Helene's place and carried out a Reiki cleanse. Anyway, the activity, of course, got stronger after this because, of course, the Zetas love Reiki, so it really drew them in. Anyway, the Reiki teacher was leaving on a holiday, and he didn't want to leave this poor family stranded with all this stuff going on. And he knew that I'd been having experiences and we were working in the business in partnership. So he rang me and he said, look, please, can you take over from me and help these poor people? He said, I don't know what's going on with them. I've Reiki'd the house and it's not helped. It's got worse. And as he described what was going on, particularly talking about the black-clad beings, because that's how my teacher always dresses. So as he was talking, lights were going on, and I was thinking to myself, well, this sounds like ET contact. So I said to him, look, give Helene my phone number, let her ring me and we can talk, which is exactly what happened. I got a phone call the next day. And we talked at length, and I explained to her about my experiences. I had a manuscript for one of the books available at that time. I was in the process of writing Human by Day, Zeta by Night. It was under another title at that back then, back in 2000. And I offered to give her the manuscript to read. And so I spent all weeks just speaking on the phone to her, just to help her pass the fear and explain to her, look, no, it's nothing negative. It's okay. Don't be scared about it. It's fine. And this was the reassurance she needed to help the children. And funnily enough, the first time Helene and I spoke on the phone, I recognised her voice straight away. Oh, I know you from somewhere. So anyway, what happened once I helped Helene pass the fear and she was able to help the children, the elder child, Kira, the daughter, actually established very full-on conscious contact with a Zeta teacher by the name of Alvarez. And she was consciously having the most wonderful experiences, being taken up on the disc nearly every night. She used to see me up there. Auris gave her messages that my teacher had given me over the years, that she, of course, had no idea of because I'd never met these people before, which provided the most wonderful confirmation for me. And it all just sort of took off from there. And that this is how the Zeta Message book came about. The Zeta Message is my autobiography, my story of my lifelong contacts, and then, of course, bringing Helene into it in the year 2000 along with her family. And being a Virgo, she's very meticulous in keeping notes. So what she did, she kept a diary of every night's experiences, things they spoke about, teachings Aura sent through, very, very detailed description of the whole thing. And this is how I brought her into the Zeta Message. A lot of it's in diary form, and it differs from most books on ET contact because it gives very, very detailed explanations of why they're here, messages we were given, how to help yourself through fear, particularly how to help children because there's many children undergoing contact. Helene was very, very keen to cover that side of it. So there's so much in that book, so much information.
That's wonderful, and that's Zeta by Day.
No, that's the Zeta Message.
Oh, the Zeta Message is in that one. Okay.
The other one, Human by Day, Zeta by Night, I was actually approached by the Zetas to write that book because there was so much negative disinformation being put out about them, and many people complaining that they wouldn't communicate with them. And there's a reason for that. And they actually approached me and asked me to write a book entirely from their perspective. So Human by Day, Zeta by Night is from the ET's perspective, explaining the whole aspect of ET contact, crop circles, implants, everything, you name it, it's in there.
Oh, wonderful.
So if people want information on ETs, buy that book. And the Zeta Message tells a story from the human perspective. So it's like one from the ET's perspective, one from the human perspective.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. And if I may get a little peek into that book while we have you, could you tell us a little bit maybe about the implants and the crop circles? What do you understand? What have they told you about those implants and crop circles?
Yeah, okay. I'll start with the implants. Many of the implants are put in by the group down here. So there's a lot of ones that, negative ones put in, but where the Zetas can intervene, they'll actually remove them. But what the Zeta implants are generally not physical. They're actually placed into the energy system, and probably a better word would be to describe them is an upgrade. They'll place like an upgrade into your energy system. And what they do, they work a little bit like things like Reiki and acupuncture in that they will assist us on an energy level to perhaps recover from an illness or to keep us healthy or to upgrade us on a health level. What I teach when I'm teaching Reiki is many people in the West don't understand this, but it's very well known Eastern medical philosophy. All illness starts in the energy system. Our body has an energy system that underlies the other physical systems of the body, and this is where all illness begins. So that all the natural energy healing techniques are aimed at the energy system, and this is what the implants do. They're put into the chakra system, which is the energy system, to assist to raise their vibrational frequency or to reharmonize a chakra or whatever. For example, I have one in my arm at a chakra point to help remain healthy, and I'm a very healthy person. They can also be used for communication, and they can also be used to raise their vibrational frequency to assist us to get up onto the disc or whatever.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and they can also monitor things around us. They'll monitor our health. They'll monitor where we are on our evolutionary path, things like that. So that's what the implants are about. The crop circles, they have three reasons. The number three is very significant to the Zetas. It's quite a sacred number. Um, they're educational in that many of the crop circles are in the pattern of various star systems, galaxies, etc.
Yeah.
They're also for communication, both with humans and with the Earth. A communication is set up. We've got to remember planet Earth is a living entity, our Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And the crop circles can communicate with the Earth, and the Earth can communicate back with through the crop circles, like a portal for communication. The other thing, the third thing, and the main thing probably with them, is they are a little bit like Reiki symbols. They're sacred symbols to help to raise the vibrational frequency, to help the planet through stepping from fourth world to fifth world consciousness, also to help people step up. And this is why people, when they step into a genuine crop circle, and I emphasise the word genuine because there are fake, they will often feel things happening. They might even start to detox. They might feel headachy or sick or something like that, or they might feel really energized. There's many different ways that they can perceive the energy shift.
Wow, and I love what you're saying because it does resonate with what I feel. As we said, feeling it and knowing that it's right. I thank you for that because it really, again, it resonates. With the messages that you do receive from the Zetas, can I ask you, have they foretold? I know you've been connected and communicating with them for many, many years. Did they speak about this time of 2012 or of this time of the collective consciousness making a leap? Many people talk about the new golden age, how we're all going to, and I want to talk about the positive aspects, of course, that this is going to be the time when humanity is going to make that leap and make that consciousness jump into greater
Yes.
clarity.
Yeah. It's a little bit, they compare it to the Renaissance time in Europe back in whenever that was, 1600s. I can't remember, I learned my history at school and I can't remember, but they
Right.
compare it to that, only on a bigger scale. It's not a thing that's going to just go bang overnight. All
Right.
the 21st of December is to do with, there's some sort of astrological alignment. I must admit, I don't really go into the science side of it, so there's probably people out there who know far more about it than I do. But as far as I understand, there's an astrological alignment that is going to be like a key or a catalyst that is going to help the process. I believe there was one back in 1987 or
Yes.
89 as well. Harmonic
Yes.
convergence, if I remember rightly, and that was another key back then. So what it is, it's a very, very gradual process that's been going on for about 20 years or more, and it will continue after 2012. The number 13 with the Zetas is, again, it's a significant number. It's a number of transformation, as it was, I believe, with the Mayan people. So 2013 is symbolically the year when transformation will really start to kick off. But it's not going to be just suddenly, click your fingers and the whole thing changes. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be very, very gradual. Perhaps they might start making more appearances. That is what they would like to be able to do. They would like to be able to start contacting people down here more and sort of making mass appearances of discs and things. So that could be a thing that starts happening after December 2012, but it's not set in stone. They're really, really, they're gauging on what's happening down here. I think they're waiting for like a critical mass of people to start shifting their vibrational frequency up. It really all hinges on how willing people down here are to embrace love rather than fear, and to stop all the wars and things that are going on down here. Honestly, many of the ET races would come here if it wasn't for the warlike sort of, way people carrying on down here.
It's very
really,
true.
really sad. It's a very fearful planet.
It is. It really is. I have, well, again, I have an hour's worth of questions to ask you, but you brought up something a little personal to me in the sense of this, how they would wish that we would rise above war, rise above poverty or whatnot, or exclusion is probably a better term. For me, when I had my contact experience, one of the first things that they did was they did show me all the wrongs on the planet. For example, I was shown images of war, I was shown images of poverty, of racism, of anger, of warmongering, etc., etc. Is that a common theme in contact?
Yes, it is. I haven't had a great deal myself, but I know that a lot of people have been. And what they're doing, what a lot of people interpreted that, oh, yes, well, that's a confirmation of all the gloom and doom predictions that have been made, but
Yeah,
it's
no.
not.
Hmm.
No, all they're doing is showing us, look, this is what's going on your planet. And, if you don't pull your act together,
Yeah.
it will continue. So they're just sort of showing us the reality of what's going on down here and to try to inspire humans to look and be horrified by it and say, look, no, I don't want that anymore. And what people need to understand is it's an individual choice, is choosing love and fear. It is an individual choice that everyone needs to make. And this is really what the Armageddon thing. Armageddon's been misinterpreted as being, the end of the world. It's not. It's a new beginning. It's a rebirth. But what we need to do is to choose love over fear. That's sort of the God-Satan element. Satan's the fear element, God's the love element. And people
Yes.
have to choose, make a choice between the two. Have
Uh,
to choose.
yeah. And that's exactly it. It's being. I feel for me as we're seeing all the ugliness of the world bubble to the surface, it's giving everyone an opportunity to choose what do they want, or at least to see what they don't want. Now, let me ask you, what have they said to you? And we hear this all the time in the UFO or ET contact community. Have they said anything to you as far as uh, getting, I don't want to say getting in the way, but coming down and helping us without our permission? I mean, we hear so much that it has to be, like you said, a critical mass where finally we welcome them to help us. And then there's that other school of thought that think, oh well, if they come down here, they're just going to enslave us. So, what are your thoughts on that, Judy?
Yeah. Yes. Well, really, the underlying thing behind contact with the Zetas is waking people up. Now, what they actually do, people have a lot of trouble with the eyes of the greys. This is a real fear thing with many people who've had contact. The big black eyes. Now, what they do with their eyes, they mirror back all our own fears that are buried deeply subconscious fears that need to be brought to the surface. We of course we reincarnate many times, so we've had past lives, and fears have built up over many past lives and collected in our subconscious. Now, in order for us to be able to evolve to a higher consciousness level, this involves mind expansion, and fear is a limiting factor here that won't allow us to evolve. So these fears that are deeply buried in our psyche are like a deep-seated infection that need to be brought to the surface. So the eyes of the greys are actually doing this, bringing our own fears to the surface. And so therefore, often contact with them can be an extremely traumatic experience for people, because it's pushing them out of their comfort zone, bringing all these fears to the surface and making them face them. But what people need to understand, they need to do this. They have to move through this fear barrier. It's like we talk about the shamanic experience, the dark night of the soul, which is part of the training. It's part of the training of a shaman. They have to move through their fear barrier to enable them to step up to higher vibrational frequencies to carry out their shamanic work. Now, this is what the greys are doing down here. It's like a transmutation process. So yes, they're doing a huge amount of this to help people down here. They also, I've been asked the question, do they ever intervene in planetary affairs? Well, again, this is a bit of a touchy area for them, because their other ET races aren't allowed to interfere down here. There are protocols in place.
Yeah.
The Greys have permission to be here to do this work, and they can interfere up to a certain point, but at the same time they have to respect human free will and karma. So some of these earth changes that are taking place, there are karmic implications here that need to be balanced. And so therefore they can't always intervene.
That makes a lot of sense. And I can't help but ask you, and I hope this doesn't sound too cheesy, in the sense that we have so many people out there, especially in the internet world and the UFO communities and the ET communities. Speaking of the Galactic Federation of Light, what are your thoughts on the Galactic Federation of Light? Is there one? Is this a hoax? Um, uh, your thoughts?
Yeah, oh yeah, look, there are. There's governing bodies out there. I actually prefer the term that the Native Americans use, star nations. I
Yeah,
love that term. I
yeah.
always use that term. And oh yes, I mean like within the Zeta community there's like governing councils, and there would be on other planets as well. And as far as I understand, yes, there would be like an intergalactic type governing body, um, through which the higher consciousness can work. It's not certainly not like down here. There's not power or ego or anything like that. I
Right.
mean, it's always for the greater good of all. And a planet like Earth is where they can, they will protect because it's a very young planet with a very young population. And so, yes, they try to protect as well as they can. A lot of the interference, this is a very difficult thing to get people to understand and to get across. Most of the interference that's coming in here isn't coming in so much from the outside, it's more here already. They are ET races, but they've been here for a long time and look on the planet as their own. That's the controller group I'm talking about. So they're very firmly established here, and this is why they can interfere. It's not so much that they're coming in from outside, they're already here.
Ah, very good, very good. Um, and this is probably a maybe a silly question to ask, or maybe not, but I think that with our conversation today, it would help to share this with everybody who's watching. We have quite a few viewers watching right now. Do they, whether it be the Zetas or the Galactic Federation or the Star Nations, do they choose one individual to represent them, or are they in contact with multiple people throughout the planet?
Oh, they're in contact with thousands of people down here. See, they've tried to come through the government, but there's this massive cover-up.
Yeah.
And so what they've done, they now are just contacting people on an individual basis because the government obviously isn't going to cooperate.
No, no.
So, yeah, but no, they're in contact with thousands of people, if not millions.
Right, right. I love the term, people talk about, governmental disclosure. And I kind of laugh at that because I'm like, we don't need disclosure. We're already in contact. So why do I
Exactly,
need a government to tell me that they're here when we're already in contact and so many of us around the planet are in contact?
exactly, exactly.
Hey, the reason why I asked you the previous question was there are unfortunately many people out there who say they are the lone contact for the Pleiadians or the Zetas or this and that. So I thank you for sharing that because I feel it's very important for people to have discernment on what is truth and what is love and what is something that's going to raise our vibration. And
Yes.
if someone says, I am the chosen contact, we have to be weary of something like that.
Oh, very, very wary. Yeah, there's no one person. There's no one person. I'm the only one who's in contact with so and so. No way, no way. There are many,
Absolutely.
many people, and none of us hold the whole truth. Everyone contributes a little bit. It's actually a humbling experience because the longer I'm involved in this, the more I realise I don't know.
Isn't it?
So some of us have we all have a little bit of the truth, but nobody has the whole truth. It's a cooperative thing.
That's wonderful. And actually, that's a wonderful way for us to wrap up, or we're at the last minute here. So, yes, it is a cooperative thing. No one holds the entire truth of. And Judy, I was wondering if is there any message that you feel that we could use to hear from the Zetas today? Is there anything recent that maybe they share with you that you could share with us?
Yes, well, look, the main thing that they want to get across is, connecting into love rather than fear. So whatever comes through, if it's something coming through the media or something that you hear channel or read a, channel teaching or read a book or anything, tune in. Is it coming from love or is it coming from fear? And understand that ego is an aspect of fear. That's really important to understand. The other thing that they want us to understand is that we are all empowered immortal souls. We're not just little bodies down here. Everyone is in an immortal spiritual essence that goes on forever and ever. So, even death is nothing. We just step out of the body and come back in another form. So, it's nothing to be afraid of. So that's the main message is they want to get across. They want to get across that they are here to help. They're not here to harm.
And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Thank you so much, Judy. For those of you that are very interested in following up on this particular talk, and our wonderful guest, Judy Carroll, Judy, can they? Is there a particular website that people can find more information about you, your work, and your books?
Yeah, sure, Bernard. We've got two websites. Our main one is ufogreyinfo.com, and that's Grey spelt with an E. So I'll just say that again.
Yeah,
UFO,
UFO.
ufogreyinfo.com.
I'm writing it down and putting it in the
And
chat.
our second website, which is more dedicated to the books, is thezetamessage.com.
Zetamessage.com. I'm typing and putting it into the chat.
Yeah, no, you're right. And we've also made, Helene Kaye and I have also made a series of YouTube clips in the form of question and answer, sort of, she's asking the questions, I'm giving the answers, or vice versa. And that can be accessed on YouTube through Zeta Message.
Oh, there's a YouTube channel called the Zeta Message?
Zeta Message.
Zeta Message. Let me write
We
that down.
we even have one. Our Zeta teacher taught us a beautiful qigong breathing technique, words to speak, which is very, very grounding and healing. And we've actually put it up on YouTube, so people can go into Zeta Message on YouTube and learn this Zeta breathing technique. They've also taught us a wonderful 13-step aura cleanse, and this is also on YouTube.
Wonderful.
We teach this in Reiki. It's a wonderful, wonderful cleansing and healing technique.
Yes, wonderful. And as someone, I am also a Reiki master, and I'm loving everything that you're saying about Reiki. It is part of the process for me and my path.
Absolutely.
So thank
sure.
you for, and our co-host for the radio show is on the chat, and she says thank you for the kick in the quote unquote butt I needed for my Reiki routine. So wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much, Judy. We're going to go ahead and sign off. Everybody, thank you for joining us. This is the GIC TV presents Judy Carroll, the Zeta Message. My name is Bernard Alvarez. Remember, this is our 4th anniversary. We're very, very grateful to be here. We look forward to being here for as long as it takes. For me, this work is about sharing truth and sharing empowering messages, bringing on wonderful, beautiful guests like Judy Carroll. And we look forward to spending another 40 years doing this very same thing. So thank you all for keeping us around for 4 years. And I thank you again very, very much.